third job is this podcast that we do about Superman. Jim and I do. He's in Vegas and I'm here in Detroit, but we do it a couple times a month. And we do it through Skype, and then we put it up on iHeartRadio. And a lot of times we talk about collectibles, autograph, things like that. So we'll start today with trying to use the clicker. Okay, authentic autographs. How many of you here are getting autographs from stars today? Great. Jim, when you're getting an autograph from a celebrity, whether you're getting it one-on-one with somebody, you know, like I just got a Lou Ferrigno autograph.
That is the best way to authenticate a photograph, is getting it in person from the star. Obviously, that's the number one way you know you've got the real deal. So the next best way would be maybe you mail a photograph to a celebrity, either to their house or to their representative. You can be pretty sure you're going to get an authentic autograph that way as well, of course. And then, of course, there's buying autographs online, and that's what you have to be really careful about. Like Jay said, we're mainly Superman movie collectors, but it applies to everything. There are third-party authentication places out there that will authenticate your autograph. Of course, they're basing all of their comments and their authentication on patterns and on similar characteristics of other autographs they have in their archives. So this is an example of, for instance, not only do people collect autographs, but if they're also lucky enough to have a handwritten letter or a typed letter that's signed from a celebrity. In this case, what you're looking at are 3 vintage Christopher Reeve letters. The one on the left actually is to Katharine Hepburn, because he starred with her in a play before he was cast as Superman. The letter on the right is a letter. Chris was notorious for writing letters and giving gifts to people. And that's a letter he wrote to his chauffeur when he gave his chauffeur his aviator jacket with Superman wrap. So these are a few examples of something that's really, really fun to collect, but you don't always have that opportunity.
A lot of people collect checks as well.
Right. He has an original check from Christopher Reeve, and
he paid it to Allstate. It was his car insurance.
Right.
But there's a lot of checks online from many celebrities, and mostly not current ones. Definitely ones that from the 70s and 80s. My mother loves Andy Griffith and loved that show, so she has an Andy Griffith check. Go to this next one. I put this up here for you guys just to see that you really. I shouldn't do that. You can find anything on eBay, and again, you don't know what you're getting. I think this would be authentic if you did your homework. It's $100,000, but it's a letter from Albert Einstein with his signature. So the question then becomes, Jim, how do you even go about authenticating something like that?
Have any of you ever sent an autograph out to an authentication third-party place? There's mainly 3. There are a few others out there. And keep in mind, it's just their opinion. It's not always right, but most of the time they're on target. In this case, there are a couple of companies now who will do what's called a quick opinion service. And there is a charge for this. And you could send them, for instance, a picture of what you found on eBay, and they can give you what's called a quick opinion. And we'll send or give you the email or the website addresses to those places. But
this is a letter of authenticity up here now, Jim.
Right, that's from JSA, James Spence Authentication. And what's neat about this is, do you see that sticker? That sticker refers to that autograph specifically. So for instance, say someone has something on eBay, an autograph, and they have this certificate featured in the eBay auction. They've gone ahead and sent it off and accompanied it with the eBay auction. You can actually get on the JSA website, type that number in, and if that very autograph comes up, you know that authentication is the real deal. This is something that I urge you to look for if you do decide to buy an autograph online. If you're just getting a small little tiny picture, not much description, I'd be very leery about that. Christopher Reeve's is one of the most forged autographs that we've ever heard about, as you can imagine.
A lot of times Jim knows that the Christopher Reeve autograph is forged because it'll be on a picture that he restored after Christopher Reeve died. So he knows his photos pretty well, and he owns more rare behind-the-scene photos and stills than anyone in the country, in the world. And when you see a signature on something, you know, after he had his horse accident, couldn't do that anymore.
No,
you
no.
You know for sure that it's not real.
No, Christopher Reeve was not able to sign autographs anymore after 1995 during his horse riding accident. And my website didn't launch till 2002. And I put my watermark on all my pictures. So just the other day, a guy sent me a picture. There it is, Cape Wonder watermark in the corner with a Christopher Reeve autograph on it.
And again, this applies to stars, any stars that you buy autographs from. I mean, if a star passed away 10, 15 years ago, and it is it's a really great new photo, chances are it's a fake.
This is one of the websites that we were talking about that were third-party authentication. This is PSA. Now, they're mainly geared towards sports autographs, but they also deal with general celebrity autographs. And they also have this authentication sticker that they'll put on a card or on a photograph. And that is always in their database that you can go back and refer to. And then we have Beckett's. Beckett's is really well known for authenticating gum cards. You know, it's getting really popular now for celebrities to sign vintage gum cards. I don't know if you've ever seen one. We have a few. Christopher Reeve signed them. Now keep in mind, Chris only did one pop culture convention his entire life. So if you were lucky enough to be carrying around a Topps card when you caught him walking out of a restaurant, that's pretty slim. But these guys will also do what's called encapsulation. You can send them the card, Topps card authenticated. They'll authenticate it, register it, and then encapsulate it in an acid-free plexiglass case. And then you can display it and it's protected forever. And above at the top will show you the authentication.
So if it's baseball cards or if it's movie cards from
Right.
Star Wars, same thing. These guys are really good at what they do.
Do they also do like jerseys? You said
Yeah, oh yeah, they'll authenticate that too. But keep in mind, you always have to send your items to them. So if you're nervous about that, first of all, I would only send FedEx, so you have a tracking. But you're going to have to send it to them for an item like that. They cannot give you a certification without physically inspecting the item. And most of the time, you got to do that with an autograph anyway. They've got to look at it, look at it in the light, make sure it's not a printed autograph, that kind of thing. This is JSA. I spoke about them earlier. And you want to talk about the video we're going to see?
Yeah, we have a couple short videos throughout the presentation. This gentleman's name is Brad Day. Brad Day, Jim was talking about it, gum cards, those baseball cards with autographs. Now, again, we told you that a lot of our friends that do this collect Superman things, but it applies to everything. This guy's great. I mean, friends send him things all the time. I'll find something on eBay, and I'll say, what do you think of this? And he'll go, well, fake. It's just in his humble opinion, he always says, but he's always right. And the other interesting thing about him is I have a cast signed Superman framed photo in my office with all different index cards from different stars from the entire cast. I've had it for 5 years. It's like one of the most expensive things I ever bought, and had no idea that the Marlon Brando autograph was a fake. The rest of them were all authentic. There's 15 signatures on it, but the Brando is a fake. And whoever sold it to me probably didn't know that. They probably thought they had an authentic Marlon Brando autograph until you go and try to find one now and realize that they alone are $3,000. So it may be why I got a great deal on it, or again, he probably didn't know. Most people don't know they have a fake, and they're not trying to be malicious.
That's right. And keep in mind, folks, we are collectors. We are not professionals that get paid to authenticate anything. So we don't call ourselves experts. We try to give you our best, most educated opinion based on our years of exposure of this stuff and networking with other autograph and collectors and enthusiasts. Yes, ma'am?
Yes, I'm sorry, unfortunately I got here late. Who are you guys with?
Oh, well, I'm with CapedWonder.com, and Jay is our local radio and television guy here, the #1 guy in town, and we have joined forces and created a Superman podcast dedicated to the Christopher Reeve movies. You know Christopher Reeve and the Superman movies. You ever seen those? No, never have? Well, what we're talking about today are movie props and autographs.
I got one right here.
Oh, you do? Well, what I was saying earlier is the gentleman here, like Brad Day, who we network with, we all do this. This is one of our passions. This isn't necessarily our profession. So we don't claim to say we are experts, but we do try to give you our most educated and honest opinion about everything that might be sent our way.
Who did you get an autograph from today?
Yeah.
I have a knife that is signed by John Carpenter, with the JLS Authenticate, and I'm gonna go and get, the guy who played Michael the first time, I'm gonna have him autograph.
Nick Castle.
And he's gonna have, I'm gonna have to take a picture of him autographing it and
Right.
him holding it, because I don't wanna spend another $40 with JF.
And by the way, that's a great idea, folks. If the Star allows you to do so, take a picture of them signing it. I had the honor of being with Christopher Reeve when he went to his only pop culture convention, and I actually did photograph him signing the autograph. So not all of them allow you to do it, but if you can do it, you did that?
Did what?
You're going to get them to sign it, and you're going to photograph them doing it?
I haven't done it yet.
And you've got a JSA certification on that one?
JSA on Carpenter.
Very good. So you've got the sticker with the registration
Yes.
number and all that. Excellent.
You're smart.
Very
That's
smart.
exactly what we're trying to get people to do. You know. All right.
Good, good.
Let's play that video.
Hello, Motor City Comic Con. I hope you guys are having a great time at the panel. I so wish that I could be with y'all. I'm jealous. But my name is Brad Day. A lot of you know me from the Superman the Movie Autograph Collectors Facebook group. And also my relationship with Kate Wonder, Jim Bowers, and of course Jay Towers. If you haven't got a chance to listen to their podcast, you are missing out on something special. I've been honored to be able to share with you a couple of things regarding what I do and what I feel like is important for the hobby. And one of the things that I want to go over real quick, and just to make sure that you understand, in doing your due diligence and making sure that whatever item you are looking to purchase is authenticated. And it's being done, authenticated by the industry's best. Over the years, JSA, PSA have been kind of the industry leaders when determining authenticity, but never check your brains at the door. You make sure that you kind of get familiar with some of these traits and characteristics, signatures, if you will. But here recently, I've noticed that Beckett is really up their game under Steve Grad and Brian Sorbo. Those guys are amazing, and not only that, just depending on who you choose to get to authenticate your piece, your autograph piece, could impact its ability to sell later if you want to turn it over, flip it if you will, or even just enhancing how much money you could get out of it. Beckett seems to be the one these days, as far as entertainment's concerned, the one that you would probably want to go with. But I'm not necessarily endorsing that, I'm just saying personally, I'm seeing that is impacting the industry, especially in selling, reselling, maybe flipping an item that you might want to upgrade your collection. Several of us have done that. But the main thing that we do, especially in shedding light within our Facebook group, is just to help people make good decisions. In our Facebook group, we're not claiming to be professionals. I've had an opportunity to really learn and study signatures, but specifically pertaining to Christopher Reeve, in which I feel like I have a good grasp. It doesn't mean that Beckett or PSA or JSA is the end-all be-all. Sometimes they're going to fail something just based on the fact that they don't have enough information. That's why in my collection, if I have something, it's probably going to be something that I can definitively say that Chris put his hands on. If it's somebody else in the movie, Gene Hackman, other famous actors, Marlon Brando even, honestly, I'd like the professionals to really give me their input. It doesn't mean that I wouldn't want their input on Reeve. I just feel like that over the years I've kind of gotten to the point where I've had a pretty good grasp on signatures that I know that are definitively his. Doesn't mean that something that is, a rush signature, if you will, who can really know? Jim Bowers is probably one of the only people that I know personally that actually saw Christopher Reeve autograph in person. Actually, a couple of more guys. I know Peter Petrucci has, and there might be a couple of others in our group that have seen that, but very few people have had exact proof from Christopher Reeve, and that's what we call in the industry when you actually view someone signing something.
We wanted to move on next to screen-used or screen-worn costumes and props. Again, like we said, Jim and we collect Superman stuff, but this does apply to anything. It applies to, yes.
I just want to ask a quick question. I was told that if you are getting an autograph, you should have it, if it's signed to you, then people will think that it is more authentic. So I have everybody, sign for me. And is that true or is that false?
Are you looking to sell it or to keep it?
I'm looking to sell it, but I'm looking to keep it, but he might sell it.
Yeah, I mean, most of the stuff if you're a fan of something, we hold on to things. I have my stuff personalized because I want to keep it. I'm never looking to sell my stuff because I'm a fan.
I'm the same way, and,
Yeah.
and there's been a lot of discussion about that from fans. I know Jason DeBoard from Original Prop Blog. He has the biggest prop or movie blog online. He's also with Julian's Auctions. And his opinion is it doesn't really make any difference whether it's authenticated or not. If it's a really special item or if it's a really beautiful autograph, it often will bring you the same money. And if you happen to be the same person's name on it, it's even more appealing. So I've seen people online say, hey John, there's a To John Chris Reeve autograph for sale. And it makes it very exciting for him. So that's really a personal preference thing. I really don't think it's going to impact too much. It really depends on the item.
Okay, thank you.
And the buyer.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
It's like, what is something worth? That's the big question I get all the time. How much is this worth? Well, it's really worth whatever you're willing to pay for it. Now, obviously, for instance, a Chris Reeve autograph is going to get more money on a Superman picture than a picture of him, walking down the street in New York City or in some other movie. There's many other examples of that.
I mean, I purchased at an auction a Superman 3 script that was signed by the entire cast to a gentleman by the name of Dusty who worked on the production. So this guy worked on the film and walked around with the script at the wrap party and got Richard Pryor, everybody in that movie and associated with that movie, Richard Lester, to sign it, and it's all personal. Every autograph in that book is personalized to Dusty. I'm assuming he passed away. That's why all this stuff went up for auction.
That's right, and the fact that all those autographs are together on a production used piece, you are definitely going to see more value come off of that because it's so rare and one of a kind. If you can get something autographed from someone that worked on the production and it's something they walked around with on the movie set, like a script, that's gold.
This is a Superman the movie tunic that Jim owns that you got at a prop store auction. And
on the left, right.
Right. And then this is Lex Luthor's jacket from Superman 4, which I got a couple of years ago. Now, I mean, you would think the best way to authenticate this is by, comparing both pictures. I later realized that the jacket that I have is not the one, and I'm not afraid to admit that Gene Hackman's wearing in this photo because he's standing. The one that I have has slits on the side for the wires for when he was flying in. So there was a flying coat, there was a walking coat, much like, if you buy a Darth Vader costume, you're never going to, it's not one. I mean, there's hundreds of them that were production used. So I was able to identify that jacket is the one that's in the air, not the one that's on the ground.
Right, they often have what's called a beauty version, or one that you wear during close-ups that's flawless and perfect. And then you have ones that were made to be used over and over again, or often used just by a stunt person. So,
I wanted to buy this from the prop store, but ran out of funds this year. But these are Lou Ferrigno worn, and you can get this right now. It's my glasses on $1,995. This is the Incredible Hulk shredded khaki pants used in an episode. You can authenticate it based on the episode. And people often wonder, do you get something like this? If I had this, would I bring it to a show like this and have Lou Ferrigno sign it? People go back and forth on that, Jim, right? On whether you should actually have a star sign something that was worn and screen worn. Does it take the value down? It depends. Does it make you happy or not? If you're not going to sell it, who cares? If you're going to sell it, probably not.
Right, and you can get into some very heated discussions about that very topic. My preference is, if I'm going to get something like this signed, I would rather it get signed on the waist and the back where you don't see it when it's on display, or maybe if it's a cape, you have the underside of the cape signed. But certainly I would never have Lou Ferrigno or anybody else right across, the front of it, to Mary loved Lou, anything like that. Because the original prop blog, I keep going back to Jason because he's one of the foremost authorities and trusted authorities. He is of the opinion that autographs generally don't bring more value to a prop. but it depends on the prop, and it depends on where you got it signed. So we keep mentioning Prop Store of London. That's where you saw the pants. They're one of the auction houses that we 100% back, because they are on their game, and their integrity is top notch.
We went over to see the people over at Hakes today who are here at the show. We waited for a little while. They're great friends, but they were jammed because people are bringing things over to them where they're going to give their honest opinion. Hakes auctions are great, by the way. We got a gigantic file box of Superman the movie production sheets of filming, and it was great. I mean, it was just added to our collection a couple of years ago. They have great stuff, and they'll look at your stuff today.
Well, they will, and I know these guys really well, and if you want to sell an item through them, and they have any reservations about it, they will not sell it. For instance, if there's a costume without proper authentication or provenance, paperwork, paper trail, or if it just doesn't seem to look like other costumes that they've seen in the past, they will often reject it. So this is another company that I highly recommend. They are very honest folks. Heritage is another, heritageha.com. Take pictures of that if you want. They mainly deal in a lot of paper, a lot of vintage posters, photographs, but they'll often have a lot of coins and money and that sort of thing. They have a whole variety of things. Again, Prop Store of London. They're out of London and California, and they are fantastic. We've both made some major purchases from them. Without question, all of their stuff is the real deal. Bonhams is also great. A story about Bonhams really quick, and I think we're going to get to that soon. Chris Reeve was very notorious for giving gifts at the end of filming movies. And one of the gifts that he gave back in the day was a gift to a guy by the name of David Speed, who was in charge of the flying equipment to make Superman fly. And Chris and he really hit it off, so Chris gave him his director's chair, Christopher Reeve's Superman director's chair. David Speed passed away, his family put it on Bonhams, and I got it.
How much?
We'll talk about that. But it's a one of a kind, and it's production used. I don't even have footage of David sitting in it using the flying equipment, so they're fantastic. Julian's Auctions, top notch. Absolutely great. They recently sold a Superman evil costume from Superman 3. Remember, he's exposed to kryptonite. Did you all ever see that? And he turns evil. His costume's very dark. They recently sold a costume for $200,000 on the auction block in Las Vegas. Beautiful piece.
I was outbid after 1,000.
Oh, you were?
Yeah.
Well, I got a chance to photograph that in my studio. This costume was complete. Boots, belt, everything. Absolutely gorgeous.
This is, we're going to show you a video in a minute here from Jason DeBoer. The reason this video is exciting is Jason DeBoer has run this original prop block for a long time, and he covers all kinds of movie props, autographs, things like that. How long has he been doing it?
I think he's been doing it about maybe 10, 15 years, and he's also helped people recover their money from being taken advantage of by less than honorable dealers or sellers. He really will go to bat for you and can help you out and can help you get to the right people to get things authenticated. He has recently joined Julian's Auctions as the Director of Marketing, and that's going to be an amazing venture for them. So, Jason DeBoer on video.
Hello, my name is Jason DeBoer, and I founded a website called the Original Prop Blog, and I'm also the Director of Marketing, Media, and Contemporary Pop Culture for Julian's Auctions. So I'm a friend of Jim Bowers, and he asked me to shoot a little bit of a quick video with some advice for people who collect or maybe are thinking about collecting original props, costumes, other artifacts from film and television, autographs, and he wanted me to provide the answer to one question, which is what's one piece of advice that you give to people. And I thought about it a little bit, and I think my main advice is to never really take anything for granted. It's still kind of a new niche field as far as movie props and TV props and costumes go. I mean, it's been going on for decades, but it's not something that's super mainstream. And as a result, there's not really a lot of oversight as far as authentication and people, dealing fairly with one another and being honest. So there's a lot of opportunity for people who don't have morals and scruples, I guess you could say. So my advice is never take anything for granted. And I started as a collector myself, and I've networked with a lot of other collectors. And everyone has a story about either being taken advantage of or someone trying to take advantage of them, or, even in some cases, people buy something that's not authentic, and it's not like someone was out to take advantage of them, but maybe someone earlier in that chain of ownership did. So it's just important to really not take anything for granted. Always ask questions, and if someone sort of makes you feel uncomfortable for asking questions, there's always something else to buy. So never feel like, oh, if I don't buy this, I'll never have another opportunity. Well, the thing is, if it's not authentic, it's not the opportunity that you're looking for. So I found that honest dealers and honest collectors will be understanding and entertain questions as far as the provenance, chain of ownership, what they know about it, how it traces back to the production. And a lot of people might not have all the answers, but they're willing to share what they do know. And then it's important to reach out to other resources to sort of fill in and answer those outstanding questions. So I've got one thing here I can show you. This is a Superman costume. Why do I have a Superman costume? Well, I started looking into Superman costumes with regards to my website, and it seemed like there's a lot of controversy, a lot of questions about Superman costumes that were attributed to Christopher Reeves in the original Superman films. And the more I dug into it, the more questions I had. So this is actually a costume that a friend of mine bought as a real costume, and then later down the line he found out it wasn't authentic. So if you're looking at a photo of this and then there's an original authentic one next to it, it might be difficult to tell the difference between those costumes. So years ago I actually took this costume, that's why I have it, that friend of mine, he said, if you can use this for good, you can keep it. So that's why I have this costume. I actually met up with other collectors that had authentic examples, and then there was someone that had authentic examples direct from Warner Brothers. So we laid them all out, we compared them all, and we kind of figured out the scoop on these costumes. And also Jim Bowers was a huge help over the years, kind of sorting out what's real, what's not real, and sort of what was going on behind the scenes. So this is an example of a real person that paid a lot of money for a costume that he believed was real at the time, and it wasn't. So, it happens to everyone, and this was like a really sophisticated collector with a huge collection. So anyone can be taken advantage of, and no matter what story you're told that kind of accompanies a piece, even if it's from someone that worked on the film or the TV show or whatever, just because someone worked on a film or a TV show, it doesn't mean that they're necessarily honest. So like I said, there's a lot of money in this field. There's a lot of money with movie memorabilia. It goes up and up and up all the time. So you just have to be looking out for yourself, because you're the one person that can do that. And just know that there are resources, there are other collectors out there that can help you. So if you want to get really serious about collecting, or even buy just one piece, you want one really cool piece in your collection, use those resources, reach out to those other collectors. Other collectors are always happy to share their knowledge with one another, because a good, honest marketplace is kind of good for everyone. And so there's a lot of people out there willing to help, and if you ever have any questions about collecting, my door is always open. You can always email me and reach out to me, and if I don't know the answer, I can maybe point you in the right direction of someone who does. So that's kind of my little bit of advice for the panel you guys are watching right now. And I hope it's helpful. I hope it wasn't too long, but that's about it. So thank you, and I hope you have a good time at your convention. Thanks.
Again, it's great to have a guy like Jason help us out because, again, we've said it a million times, we collect Superman stuff, but that guy has seen everything from every film and talk about great and really get the story behind where some of these items come from. So if you find something, if you're going to buy something, don't hesitate to reach out to that guy and send him an email. He'll get back to you.
Oh yeah, it's really fun to get on his site. You just go to his search block and type in anything you collect, and you can see all these different stories, different auctions that have happened, and you really learn a lot in a pretty short period of time, Jay. So, you know, just having exposure to all this really, really makes a difference. Do you guys mainly collect autographs, or are there any prop collectors here at all?
I have two.
You have two. Well, here's an amazing prop, Jay.
This is just a quick section here on screen-used props, things that you can actually see in the film. I was lucky enough to get this from a guy who was getting married in Las Vegas, and he needed more money for his wedding, and he said, I've had this for a long time, and I'm selling off some of my stuff. He reached out to me. This is, you know, it looks like a surveillance camera when you look closely at it. It is very much a prop. It is wood and just has kind of random pieces on it. But this can be seen multiple times in Superman the movie when he drills down into the city underground. And there's a light on there and a motor that probably has not worked since 1977 when they filmed it. And an electrician came to my house just last week who loves old stuff and got the light to work, and I thought it was great. I mean, this is only seen in the movie. There's only one of them. There wasn't 5 of them, and it's all, there's numbers inside. It's great. I also purchased this. This is from Superman 4, a scene where Christopher Reeve is on the Smallville farm and gets a crystal out of what is meant to look like the one from Superman the movie. I will tell you that we talked about doing your homework. I wish I would have known that the price I paid for this was far less than the price it cost to crate it and ship it to the United States, because that cost more than this.
Yeah, I've been sitting in a London museum for a long time, but you know, they made one, and in this case, it's just a fabulous piece. You know, so
Yeah, it's in my house.
I know.
There it is. This was a wig worn by Margot Kidder in Superman 2. Again, finding somebody that has authentic paperwork and examples, and this came in the wig boxes from London, just outside of the Pinewood Studios. Also, things that you'd find online, things like Polaroid production notes. I told you I just bought a big box from Jim has a bunch of them. I mean, these are basically what's called continuity photos, right, Jim? It's what they take during a film to make sure everybody looks the same in every shot.
Right. These were shot constantly to make sure your makeup, your hair, your costume, and all that looked right. If they had to continue the scene the next day, where you had to come back and get your blood and your dirt and everything that looked the same. What's on the left there is called a call sheet, and it's beautiful because it has dates on it and who was supposed to be on the set to film a particular scene. It even tells you what time the limousine is going to pick up the actor to go do the scene. So call sheets are really hard to come by from older movies, and it's all digital now. So it's beautiful to have this paper collectibles because they don't exist in new movies today.
Anyone ever see the movie Private Parts with Howard Stern? Anyone see the movie? So I own all of the Polaroids of continuity, and basically the person that walked around with that script and made notes every time there was a change. It's about this thick. And I have it in storage, so I wasn't able to take pictures of it. But again, with any film, if you can find online or find from a seller your favorite film's continuity photos, it's fantastic.
Look at the date on that Polaroid. 7777. That's a scene that Chris Reeve filmed in New York City, so it's just a cool date. Here's a couple of newspaper props. Oftentimes they make more than one because, you know, they had to do a scene with someone using the paper, or they needed papers, for instance, spread out throughout a city street or an office. There's not too many Cape Wonder Stunt City newspapers out there, but that is the first one you see in the movie. Jay and I both own them, and what's cool about these is typically the cover was the only thing you ever see, so it's the only real prop part of it. Often the newspaper inside it was an actual newspaper from the area they filmed, so you can see the date on it. In this case, it's from the UK, and the date is May 77. Then the one on the right there, that's another one that Margot Kidder actually had to draw Clark Kent over Superman's picture. And I was able to identify that this was the actual one that she drew on in the close-ups in the movie, because the drawing is exactly what you see.
Rare photos, again, we talked about Prop Store earlier. Last year at the Prop Store auction, they do one every, and they just did a Star Trek one, they did a Star Wars one. They do multiple, when a new TV show or maybe a show wraps, they will get rid of everything. Prop Store will be the one that has that specific television show's entire catalog that they'll sell. This came up on the auction last year. They were rare photos, never before seen. They were expensive. And when we did a panel here with the cast of Superman 2, they looked at these and were shocked. They said they haven't seen them or even remember this since the day they were on the set shooting this.
Because these, in this case, these were shot by crew members. They weren't shot by the official set photographers, so they weren't meant to be seen by the public. They were just a record of what was going on. But if you're ever in San Diego Comic-Con, Prop Store has a humongous booth. So really make a point to go see them, because they have beautiful stuff over there.
And you mentioned John Carpenter in Halloween, which is again one of my favorite movies, and Nick Castle's here signing things. But again, I mean, if you may have seen every photo to do with that movie, and then it'll take one of John Carpenter's best friends who happened to show up for a couple days of shooting to decide he's going to put on eBay his Polaroids he just took that day of them filming, and all of a sudden you have all these new pictures that have never been seen before. That happens so often.
Oh yeah.
Here's another example for Star Wars fans. This is up on Prop Store right now. This is a Stormtrooper blaster. It is $46,429. It is authentic.
So go ahead and place your bid after the
Star Trek.
Fans of Titanic, I mean, they use miniatures, and this is screen used in the film, but here's and it says what it is, large-scale model miniature of the Titanic funnel. I mean, that's $10,995. It's not at auction, meaning you're not bidding against other people. It's on their website right now. If you want to buy it, you have a piece of movie history.
Right, they have a store, and then they do auctions all year. And this is the store items.
Jim was talking about that amazing chair from Christopher Reeve that he has. Tell us about the jacket.
Oh, the jacket. Well, Christopher Reeve was an avid aviator, and the production, the producers really didn't want him flying during the filming of Superman, because obviously it's very risky. It's small planes. But he'd go and do it, sneak out and do it anyway. They told him, don't fly your plane, and they told Margot Kidder, don't ride any horses. So Chris and Margot on their breaks would go off, and they'd go ride horses and fly their plane. But anyway, he, again, this is another example. Chris loved to give gifts. And so this is the aviator jacket that he wore during Superman when he'd go fly his plane. And he gave it as a gift, and I got hold of it. And it swallowed me up when I put it on. Look how big it is. But I love it. It's, so cold in England that, that's what he wore on the plane. I love that thing.
If you guys really have movies, specific movies that you love, and you're looking for things, a Google search in quotes, and then click it to most recent in the last week, it'll find things on eBay, on auctions. I mean, it's how I find everything. And it's something I do every week just to see if there's anything out there. Martin Lakin, this is an interesting guy. This guy is in Australia?
He's from the UK.
UK, sorry. He's in the UK. And his favorite movie of all time was Superman 4. And he has tons of stuff from that film, but he has a lot of Superman things. And again, relates to how do you find authentic things and the homework that you do. And we talked about, you had asked about things that you sign, you personalize. A lot of times it's not even an autograph, it's personal paperwork. He has notes on here. So let's watch it. I edited this down a little bit. It was long. I made it shorter. It's about 4 minutes.
He's very passionate and very intimate with these items. He has a diversity of them. Oh. He has a blog called Supermania 78, which features some beautiful stuff.
Well, hello, Motor City Comic Con. Greetings from the UK. My name is Martin Lake, and you may know me as Martin L. I run the website supermania78.com. I've been graciously asked today by your hosts, Mr. Jim Bowers and Mr. Jay Towers, to talk to you briefly about Superman movie memorabilia collecting. Now, what a broad subject. My God, 40 years, the godfather of all superhero films. Everybody wants a piece of it, now more than ever. I can't blame you. I'm lucky enough to be in a very privileged position where I've managed to accumulate over a very long period of time a great deal of objects that are very dear to me. I'm going to share some of them with you today, but probably more pertinently, I'm going to talk you through how I managed to obtain these things and the importance of provenance when it comes to these kind of items. Because without the story of where they're from, they lack the kind of authenticity that's required, they lack the kind of charm that you'd otherwise get from something. So everything I'm about to show you, some of the most precious things that I have. Maybe it's print matter. There is very little in terms of, I don't own a costume, for example. God knows I wish I did. I don't own a huge array of props. But what I do own is very special. And I have worked very hard to try and accumulate a collection where the authenticity is unquestionable. And I will share with you exactly how I managed to do that and talk you through some of my most favourite pieces. I hope you enjoy it.
Now, when I talk about provenance, this is exactly the kind of thing I mean. This is such a rare item. This is a table plan for the supper party for the premiere of Superman movie. Now, inscribed across the top in blue marker, the unmistakable autograph of the man himself. So this is a really good example of what we now call the stacked signature, done in haste, I guess you would say. This is actually a page from Vintage Starlight magazine from about 1981, I believe. The image is from 78, however, one of the earliest photos of Chris in costume, one of my favourites. Now you may recognise these as street signs from the miniature set of Superman 2. These were actually given to me, would you believe, by a very good friend of mine named Steve Camden. Steve was on set back in 1979, and I think he actually delivered post, would you believe. He met Christopher Reeve on several occasions, delivered him his correspondence from the States, and yeah, somehow managed to obtain these when the sets were broken down. They are nothing more than cardboard. Bearing in mind this was like in the late 70s, this probably would have been quite difficult to do. I don't think there's no such thing as a colour photocopier, so I don't know what process would have been used to make these, but they are very intricate. Any mistakes have been painted out, and they would have been mounted to various poles on set. So completely unique.
One of my favourite pieces is this. Now, this doubled up in the film as Lacey Warfield's number plate on her car, seen clearly in the Blu-ray, and also meets a terrible fate with one of Nuclear Man's fireballs, destroy Superman now, being pasted on the front of a white sedan, which explodes, and it still bears the residue of the fire and the destruction caused by that scene. A humble piece of paper. Now, here we go with provenance again, folks. If you can see the detail on this letter, you will notice that it is in fact merely a piece of correspondence about a fitted kitchen. It's pathetic. However, once you see who it's addressed to, Mr. Christopher Reeve, the content of the letter isn't important. However, the handwritten annotations, John Williams' phone number, for example, they're pretty significant, wouldn't you say? Well, if we flip this over for just one moment. And yes, what you're looking at is handwritten lines from the script of Superman 4 in Christopher Reeve's very own hand. That is a Superman 4 crew jacket. Only given out to members of the set. There were 3 different variations of colour. There was a red, there was a navy blue, and there was a black. The black one, as far as I know, was only given to Chris's stunt doubles, and Mark Stewart, I believe, is the only person to wear it, and you will find that it's what I'll be wearing for the entire presentation. It's the same jacket, folks. And the lucky young man marched towards crew captain. As you can see, really, 13. Harry Hughes bears the S on the shoulder. So, again, something to finish on. Hope you enjoyed it. God bless you all. Long live the Superman movies. Take care.
There's a great Martin Langton. And the thing about Martin is that he did this great video for us. It's about a half an hour long, so it'll be up at capedwonder.com where he gets into how he obtained those things, and really fascinating stuff.
Oh yeah, we're going to post all of Brad Day's video as well. All of this is on Cape Wonder if you want to go to one place. Now, not all of us can afford a $200,000 Superman costume. So there are a number of people, not just cosplayers, which are, of course, are all over the conventions now, but sometimes people just want to have a nice display in their house. And this is the company that I would highly recommend, one of many, that will make you a very accurate Christopher Reeve Superman costume.
They'll also make you an Adam West Batman costume,
Right.
Catwoman costume, and I've seen a couple of them at the show. They really try to take vintage superheroes and do fantastic jobs. The Spider-Man television show from the late 70s, they have great stuff.
Yeah, you and I both have a complete Christopher Reeve replica. It just displays so well, especially if you put it on a mannequin. So I've known about a few replica companies that make things, but Super Costumes is in Argentina. They do beautiful work. So that's an option too for display.
We often talk about eBay, things like that. The one thing you can get on eBay that you don't have to be worried too much about if it's authentic is marketing and advertising things. When people sell clippings from newspapers or original promotions books and things like that, this would be very expensive to fake, nor would you want to fake it. I mean, these are out there, they're garage sales, things like that. Anytime one of these displays come up, I try to get it if I don't have it. And some are in mint condition. Sometimes, a guy owned a 7-Eleven and put up his display once and then never put it up again.
Yeah, right. And keep in mind, this is stuff mainly from the back in the day, pre-digital, which is why it's on paper. So much of stuff today doesn't exist for new films because it's all digitized. But that's what I love about all this paper. And you and I both have so many items you really can't easily display. You'd have to frame this. Who has enough wall space for all that? So,
No, one thing I'd like to add about my primary area of collecting is movie posters. Plenty of fakes of those.
oh yes, and there's
So speaking of
definitely
paper,
ways of
yeah.
identifying the fakes. And that's a topic all on its own. But
Yes.
vintage paper does really well today.
Yes.
And those are replica movie posters are fine. If it's a reprint, that's fine, as long as you know that's what there's about a million of them out here of replica movie posters that you can look at immediately and tell that they're not authentic. But if you're a fan and you just want something in the house, great.
Right.
But if they're selling it to you for $500 and saying it's from 1976, you got to do your homework.
This guy out here, by the way, was selling vintage pictures and posters. He seems to be an honest guy. He's got them separated between the replicas and the real. And just a few real deals I saw, or the real ones I saw, looked like the real thing. So this is really interesting, Jay.
Life masks. You'll find them all over the internet. I mean, Jim, when people buy these, you have a mold, obviously, and you can make them 1,000 times. So it's not necessarily that the life mask is from the 70s or the 80s or your favorite film and it was sitting there on set. A lot of people have the original mold and will just keep making them, which is fine, again, as long as you're not paying a huge price for them.
Right, typically the makeup guy, at least back in the day, would actually make a mold of your face with plaster, and they would use that for lighting setups, for makeup tests, that sort of thing. Again, we go back, this is Christopher Reeves, and the ones you typically see online are copies of the original, not the original itself.
I have a life mask with Marlon Brando from Apocalypse Now, I think, but
Yeah.
it is not from Superman, but they're around close to the same time. It's pretty cool. So again, you know what you're getting. Our final video, and our before we start taking questions, if you have them, is from Zach Curtis, who was going to be here today. He had to send this along. It's just about 3 or 4 minutes, but Zach Curtis is a young collector. It's not always about how much money you have and can you buy these gigantic expensive pieces. A lot of people collect what's out there right now, which is just a lot of toys and figurine statues, right, Jim?
Oh yeah, in all price ranges. Zach is mainly a Superman guy again, but he's in his 20s. He's very passionate about what he does. He is also a toy seller in general with toys, works a lot of shows. So, you know, there's all price ranges, all price levels of items that you can get into, and he loves it all. So a lot of the younger and up and coming collectors that are coming in to, you know, to the collector's market have talked to Zach, and he's a wonderful guy. I love that this young man is so passionate about this stuff.
Motor City Comic Con, what's up? My name is Zach Curtis, and I'm so sorry that I could not be with you all today. It's been a crazy time of year for me, but thankful so much for my friends Jim and Jay for inviting me to do a little video for this panel. But like I said, my name is Zach Curtis. I've been collecting since junior high. I'm 26 years old now, and have amassed quite the collection since then. And collecting has really become just a tremendous part of my life. For Superman. Smallville is kind of what got me into the Superman mythology, and then obviously the Christopher Reeve movies, and then the comic books, and then it's kind of expanded into everything since then. And now we have an entire room at our apartment here as I finish school, and then several rooms still at my parents' house filled with stuff. But yeah, I just wanted to talk to you guys, give you a couple of tips, things that I've learned over the years, because number one, start small. If you're kind of new to collecting, don't jump in right away. I see a lot of people jump in and they start spending big money on stuff before they really know what's worth the big money, what's real, what's not real. Bad idea. Start small. Then number two, don't get caught up in the money. Collecting, I think so many people think collecting is just about investing, and it is. There's a monetary component to collecting. And what you buy now, the money you spend now, I realize that those collectibles have equity, and you want to be able to get that money back out if you should ever need to. But at the end of the day, buy what you love. Don't buy what you think is going to be worth money. Because if you buy what you love, then it's always going to be worth it. And buy what makes you happy. Buy what reflects the character of Superman in a way that connects with you, in a way that brings those memories up. Because I can bet that everyone in this room right now has some special attachment to the character, and everyone in this room right now, that connection is probably just a little bit different. So there's going to be a collectible out there that probably connects with you a little bit different. So definitely buy what you love. And then number three, be careful. As much as I've met all kinds of great people in this big wide world of Superman collecting, two of them are hosting your show right now. But there's also a lot to be careful and wary with out there, especially when it comes to autograph collecting, movie prop collecting, art collecting, production and prototype materials. Anything that's one of a kind or rare, someone will try to duplicate so that they can take advantage of somebody else. So always do your research, do extensive research no matter what you're buying, but especially with those autographs and props and costumes and everything. And then realize the rarity of those things. The reason those things are worth so much money, the reason those things are so precious is because they're so rare. So if something seems like it's too good to be true, be careful, do your research, talk to experts, talk to people like Jim and Jay. Hit me up on Facebook, I'd be happy to help. But know what you're buying and know 100% that you're getting what you think you're getting. And then finally, the last point I wanted to make here, something that's important to me, is that when we collect these items, when we collect these pieces of Superman history, particularly as I've kind of been talking about the original props, costumes, autographs, that kind of stuff, the 40s items, the prototype stuff, any of that rare stuff, but really everything. Just realize we are not the one-all end-all owner of this. And in a way, collecting is preserving history. So we get the privilege to own this stuff for a short period of time in its lifespan, and preserve it and protect it and love it and show it and share it. And there's a responsibility in that. There's a responsibility in being able, I know I'm not going to own this stuff forever. I know that the other people who have different stuff, they're not going to own that forever. And it's our job to protect that, to carry on the legacy of Superman through what we collect, and realize that after we leave this earth, some of that stuff will still be around, a lot of stuff will still be around. On to the next person to take care of it then, on to his next caretaker, to preserve that same history that we're preserving. So take care of your stuff, because it's more than just stuff for a lot of it. It tells a story. It tells the American story, and it tells the Superman story. Thanks so much, guys. Again, my name is Zach Curtis. Find me on Facebook, social media. I'd love to connect with you. I'd love to meet you guys, and I'd love to be a part of this wonderful, wild collecting journey with you all. Thank you.
Thanks, Zach. Great guy. And he really, he said something kind of in a way I never thought of before. And he's right. I mean, a lot of the stuff that we have, we will, I don't know, my 16-year-old daughter, if I was gone tomorrow, would do it. She'd probably give it away and not realize that it's worth anything. But we have our stuff for a limited amount of time, and you hope that it gets on to the next person, especially really rare collectibles. So obviously take care of it. And I think the thing you keep hearing over and over and over again, because the one thing we all have in common, I think, today is we don't want to get ripped off, and we don't want something that we spent a lot of money on not be what we thought it was. So really, there's a lot of resources here. We're over at arcapewonder.com, our Cape Wonder Superman podcast booth. If you have any questions, we can always at least direct you, like many of the people in the video said, to the right person if you're trying to find or collect something kind of cool. Do you have any final thoughts before we get some questions?
No, I'm a photographer, and I'm always very careful about the items that I might have some interest in. And I'm always telling people, if you have to deal with someone that you can't meet in person, you're doing this through the mail or through the internet, ask for high-res photographs of items. Ask a lot of questions before you make the decision to maybe buy an item. That applies to an autograph or prop. It doesn't matter, and it doesn't matter what movie or television show. Just really, really do your homework. I've learned a lot from so many people we've networked with, Jay, and it is a continual learning experience. We're all students of this whole thing, and so I love sharing what we have and what other people have. It's really exciting all the time.
Yeah, I never would have thought to ask that question, but I did. And there was a guy that wanted, he sees my stuff online, and he goes, I want to sell you a Superman costume before I put it out there to the auction. And I was real excited by the price, and then Jim said, have him take pictures of the inside of the costume, of different things. And the guy freaked, and then he went missing. He ghosted me. So he didn't want to send those along, and $5,000 was a little too good to be true for a Superman costume.
And really, that's a good point. If it does seem too good to be true, seems too inexpensive, or he says, I sold one of these last week. No, he didn't. Not the real deal anyway. And there's lots of fakes out there in every collecting market. So I think we only have a couple of more minutes.
I think we're about wrapped up here. We got to wrap. Okay. Anybody quick questions before we go? Anybody that we can cover? Yes.
Jay, there's a place out in California, up in San Francisco, off the pier. I'm not sure. Are you from?
He's from Vegas.
Oh, I'm from Las Vegas.
Okay. There's a place up there. I walked into it last year, a couple years ago. This guy had practically everything unbelievable when it came to movies and that.
Right.
Can you trust businesses like this? We don't have many around here anymore like we used to, but we had a few at the Westland Mall, and they would get all this rare stuff in. It apparently was signed by this person, that person. Can you trust them?
That's a really good question. It's a really good point. I'll give you an example. Really quickly, there's a store in Las Vegas at Caesar's Palace. I won't speak of the name, but they seemed, my impression is they seem to mix real items with questionable items. And so you do have to be careful at these stores, and that is really a place you want to go in and ask for a lot of provenance, authentication, where they got it, who they got it from, etc. So
yeah, I went in there
really
and he
careful.
saw a KISS shirt on me. He says, "Oh, look what I just got yesterday."
Right,
I pulled out
right.
Jeeks in his base.
They're going to bring more people to the next panel. We're over the Cape Wonder booth. We'll answer questions there. Thanks, everybody. Have a great day.
Thanks so much.